at 9 p.m. on June the 7th with my special guest, Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts. Karen, it's an honor and a privilege for me to have you over here on my little channel in this big world of YouTube. Thank you so much for coming over and hanging out with me for a while.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think we've been a couple of years in the works on getting this done.
Yes, I keep throwing the line out, hoping someday it would stick. And I'm so thankful for QuiltCon, and it gave me the opportunity to meet you.
And then I'm so happy that you're here. How are you feeling?
Every day is a new day. Sorry, I'm a little rusty. I forgot to mute. Every day's getting better. April 18th, I had my stroke, and we're bouncing back slow, but we're getting there. Prognosis is really good. It's just going to take some time. They said what you get back in the first 6 months to year is what you'll really retain. Anything else is added bonus. So words get jumbled sometimes, and my speech sounds funny to me. Everybody says I sound the same. I don't know. To me, it sounds funny. But I am so thankful and blessed you're here tonight with me. So I'm going to thank a couple channels who have helped me spread the news that you were going to be with me tonight. I sent out a big help me so that we could get this party started off on a good foot. So I'm going to do a special shout out for some channels for sharing my live tonight. Tracy at the Sewing Channel, Becca at Sew Becca, Fallon at Soviet Quilts, Chris at Sew the Distance, Marty DeJesus at Project Dress a Girl, Cindy Rang of the Fabric Patch, Di of Sister Chicks, April of April's Craft Room, Ian R. Off Kilter Crafter, Jamie R. Cranky Kangaroo, Beth over the Goody Goods, Amy Demens, Donnell Stitchery, Stephanie Harris, Leah Ranson, and Tiffany of Tiffany's Quilting Life. Thank you guys for joining the party and helping me spread the news that I was going to have Miss Karen with me tonight. It's an honor and a privilege. I am just like starstruck. I tell you, when
because I'm just a quilter here working behind the camera.
Me too. And I can remember like my jaw hit the floor, the sidewalk. When you walked out, I was like, oh. When in front of the hotel and you recognized Becca, and I was like, oh my goodness, she knows Becca.
I love Becca. Becca's a wonderful woman.
She is a barrel of laughs. She is a really good girl. Everybody in the chat, thank you for coming tonight. I'm not going to get to welcome everybody tonight because I'd really like to get as much time as I can with Miss Karen, and I've left her know some of the questions that have came in for her. And boy, you guys are good. I am so impressed. So if you see anybody in blue, they are my moderators, and I humbly appreciate each and every one of you. Becca, thank you for dropping in with all of your guests tonight. We appreciate it. And let me see, if you're in green, you're my channel supporters, my squirrels, and I appreciate all of you. So let's get the party started. I'm just going to ask you to tell me a little bit about yourself, and then I'll hit a couple of the questions. Everybody knows you and your channel, but there a couple of the questions were the basics, like back to the roots. Where did you get started? Because people don't like to always go back into all of the videos. So like, how did you get started, your passion for quilting and things like that?
Well, I wasn't passionate about quilting right at the very beginning, but when I connected with other quilters, that's when I realized how much I really enjoyed the space. Um, there was the challenge of learning how to quilt, but it was just wonderful listening to um, other people that were at a similar stage of life or just a little bit beyond that I could look up to, and definitely people that were much more skilled as a quilter that I could look up to. And then the idea of doing good work, good works. We when I joined my very first quilt guild, one of the things that we did was make quilts for children that were in need. A police officer came to speak, and he said, "You have no idea how important these quilts are to these young people. They're having the worst day of their life, and this is giving them comfort." And he couldn't. He just wanted the program to go on forever because it was so valuable. And I had always enjoyed doing service for the community. So quilting just seemed to be the perfect fit. It had that service element to it, it had the community element, and it had a skill element that appealed to me as well. Um, and I've just sort of ticked along. The first guild that I joined locally was the Toronto Modern Quilt Guild. And then I found another group of people that really thought about quilting the way I thought about quilting. So that was also really enjoyable. And then, of course, you hear about QuiltCon, and then you go to QuiltCon, and it just keeps getting better and better.
That's how I felt. I was taken back at QuiltCon. I was like, "Whoo, I've never saw anything like this." It's an experience. Everybody, if you're a quilter, there's no way to really explain it all.
No, and it's different, and it's different from other quilt shows too. Um, I think it's because the Modern Quilt Guild is very much online. So there's this global connectedness that people have, and then you get to meet them and you get to see the work by them. So you enjoy QuiltCon at a different level than you enjoy, let's say, even Houston or a local quilt show.
Absolutely. How important do you feel that joining a guild is when whether you're a new quilter or seasoned quilter?
Well, I think the big barrier to joining a quilt guild for a lot of people is they don't think that they're good enough. And that is that's exactly what a guild is there for. I mean, there's some guilds that are very cliquey, they've been around forever, but I don't like to use the word cliquey. Quilters are introverts in general, and we just have to break through the armor in some way. So it's just really the challenge of an introvert breaking through the armor of another introvert. And then you're in the pack. So you need to participate. You need to volunteer to do things. You need to ask questions and people will help you. You need to share. You need to do well, so you need to participate in workshops and things like that. And I think it just takes a little bit of time for people to, it's not something that happens day one when you walk in the door, but it may happen on the third or the fourth time when you walk in the door.
Yeah, I was a one and done. I was intimidated. So I'm only 4 years in now. No, COVID 2020. Then 2021, I really started learning about quilting, but I went to one guild meeting. We only have one guild where I live. And these little ladies, God love them. They're how would I put it? Very, very kind, very much information. And I don't think, and I'm with you, I think like you got right in my head. I didn't feel like I was good enough to be in their circle at all. I was blown away by their wealth of knowledge. So I was like, whoops, maybe in a year or two.
But it's
So
you got these
I
people to
agree.
encourage you as you go along. And yeah, and they possibly have a wealth of knowledge from behind them, and multi-generational knowledge that they're sharing as well, which is nice.
Yeah, I learned so much from the YouTube. And now I think I'm at a point where when I get a little stronger, that I will entertain going back and saying, okay, now I feel like I can fit in. And now I'm ready to learn more, you know. But I didn't know about a quarter inch or anything like that. They were talking a language I didn't understand.
Well, I did my first thing. I can remember it was my cousin that was with me, and she walked by and said, "You need to do a smaller stitch. Like you might think about it." She said it quite kindly. You might think about a smaller stitch. And I think at the time I was doing like a 3.5 because I thought I had to imitate hang quilting.
Oh,
So, and then I realized, oh no, I was doing paper piecing, so should be 2 or under. So she was so kind. Yeah, I think you need a smaller stitch.
I would love to be able to get my machine to where it looks like it's all hand quilted. How awesome would that be? I've tried the hand quilting and it's um I can't, the brain just doesn't make it look as pretty as I've seen everybody else. So I'm like, oh,
Well, I did a hand quilting class last year, and in the end, I decided, you know what, I'm glad I'm done, but I find it very frustrating to be doing something that I can do so much faster with a machine.
yeah,
But I enjoyed learning the approach of hand quilting. Like that 1/4 of an inch is not a big deal with hand quilting so much as
right.
marking the pieces with a template and you're following those lines. Which is interesting, like that 1/4 of an inch didn't come out of hand quilting, it came out of machine quilting.
Right. And I never knew that until
Yeah.
after I got involved in quilting. Then I started reading books on it and things like this. And then I took to the YouTube, and you and Laura Lynn over at Mom and Pop's Quilt Shop and Sobecco was my 3 go-tos. As if I needed to know something, I would type into your channels to see how to do something because I didn't know. So thank God for you guys is all I have.
No, being beginner is fun. Like there's that stage at the beginning when you're enjoying yourself. You think you're doing it. You think you're participating. And the wonderful thing about quilting is that once you get the binding on, it forgives so many mistakes. But then you
Right.
progress a little bit farther and you realize, you know what, I want to keep my points.
Amen.
And you're swishing the heck out of a piece of fabric and it's no longer going back to where it's supposed to be. There's other skills that you need to learn.
Absolutely. Do you one of the questions, do you starch your fabric or do you just like press it and be done?
I only starch my fabrics when I'm cutting blocks on the bias. That's the
Ooh,
only
good.
time I do
Yeah.
it. That's the only time I do it. It's part of the thing is I find it just slows you down. But when you're doing those bias ones, and if you're doing a stack of them as well, it's a little time before you actually put them into something. So they need that little, I call it scaffolding.
Yeah.
They just need something to keep those threads from just fraying away.
Can you remember what your first YouTube video ever was?
My first YouTube video, I think, was unboxing my first UFO. And that is my big king size quilt, my blue, red, yellow quilt that eventually I did a video on it called What's in My Blue Bag.
I remember that.
Yeah. And just, all those beginner mistakes, I 1/4 inch, I came from garment sewing, so I didn't think 1/4 inch was really that important. I didn't I made a number of cutting errors thinking that I could do an HST, cut it in half, and it would make 2 identical hourglass blocks. And no, I had to do that differently. Just the experience of laying out the fabrics and developing the pattern and using all sorts of different types of thread. Of course, I had the wrong size stitch for many of the blocks too. And yeah, there was a lot of things I learned on that first quilt.
I used all kinds of thread. I didn't know there was a difference. I
I
didn't
didn't
care
realize
what
it
the
wasn't even
bobbin
important.
was. I didn't either. My first quilt went to my daughter, and I the quilt was made with leftover mask and some of her daughter's baby clothes. And I didn't know about slow down as you're putting it under the needle. And it had all these real pretty eyelashes on the back. So she goes, Mom, this is really pretty. But then, like a year later, I find out they're not supposed to be there. So I told her, I said, that goes to the dry cleaner or you give it back and I pick them all out. But
Just
that
all those silly things. It's just I never run it like I love sitting talking to people about what their beginner mistake was. What was the thing that you look back now and you're most embarrassed about, or you just never got? You just never.
yeah, that was mine. I was like, anytime I'm up at her place and I see the quilt and I flip it over and I'm like, please let me take this. She's like, no, that'll be your Achilles forever. She goes, Mom, we love it. So I think we've all had that boo-boo. Um, people's asking about, do you have a favorite quilt that you've ever done?
Favorite quilt, but I certainly have, and I'm like many people, it's the last couple of quilts that I've been working on that mean or have the most current memories in them. I love my Alenta. It's a Portuguese word. I say Alentejana and it's not. The G is hard. Alentejana or Jana, by Ships and Violins.
Yes.
Really love that quilt. That is the quilt that I snuggle under in my big chair when I'm sitting doing hand sewing or something like that. I really enjoyed making my million zillion scrap quilt that I just did a video on a couple of weeks ago. I love that process of putting all those small pieces together. I love this one and I didn't even make it. My friends made it for me. And it just has a lot of special memories for me. A lot of love in that. And, you know, so many of my quilts are not in my room anymore, in my home. They're in other people's homes.
Right.
And I love going to another place and remembering them. Like, it's almost like you get to visit the quilt.
Right. It's like you see it and you can remember the process of either picking the scraps or picking the fabric.
Yeah.
And it's like a flashback in time in a good way.
Yeah.
How did you get your start on YouTube? Was one of the questions. Whatever made you decide to do YouTube?
It was a funny little entry into quilting. My husband had given me a selfie stick for Christmas. And, you know, Instagram was very new at that point. YouTube wasn't huge at that point. We had also moved to a condo where we elected to not do cable anymore. We were just going to have online. We watched Netflix. There wasn't any of the other ones at the time. So we were just going to do Netflix and whatever. But my husband got onto YouTube and he started exploring around and finding different channels, a lot of which I think are absolute rubbish. But there were a couple that he came across that really caught my eye. And they got me kind of thinking. And when I did that unboxing video just as an idea, like, what am I going to do? Like, let's try unboxing, because that was popular on YouTube. And I had done a couple of things on Instagram where I just basically held up my camera and watched me do something. One of it was tracing lines on a piece of paper. And I was surprised at how many views came in. So when I was at a meeting, I was on the executive of the Toronto Modern Guild at the time, and my responsibility was to do a block lotto challenge. I said, I'll do a video. Forget about writing out instructions or writing a blog post. I'll just do a video, and that'll be so much simpler. I'll do it 3 different ways in 3 different sizes. And if you've seen that original economy block video, that was my very first one. And it was really funny because Jenny Doan is such a wonderful person. She has so much energy.
Yes.
She makes it look so effortless. And I got up and tried to be Jenny Doan in front of the camera, and I just went, "Oh no, this looks absolutely horrid. This is terrible. This is so bad." So I had to rethink it. I had to really go back and rethink how I was doing it. And it took me 3 weeks to make that first video. And I literally did nothing else. I didn't make a meal. I didn't do laundry, because I did not want to disappoint my friends. And especially the executive who I had a lot of respect for. So I just pushed on, came up with it. Something came out the other end. I was able to do it and thought, oh, I've learned a lot of things here. Maybe I'll try it again. So
Right.
I did a couple more for the Toronto Modern Guild, and then we did a challenge for across Canada, and there was a community initiative. I did a small video on that. But then I decided I was going to take it seriously. I was going to see if I understood what viral was, because honestly, when I put up the first video, I had no clue what was going to happen. I had heard of viral videos, didn't know who was going to show up, who was going to find it, how many people were going to look at it. And I sat down and realized, okay, I need to reorient how I approach videos. And it worked. It worked. It worked very quickly. I was really surprised at how quickly it worked. My first video of the revised format was 5 beginner mistakes I made. The second one was 5 sewing hacks with masking tape. And then I went into, I think, some rope bowls and my DIY ironing station. And it's the next one. There was one that I came out that I thought, oh, this is a really good one. I think maybe it was ironing, a really good ironing technique. And I realized at that point I had breathed, it was going to take a little bit longer. I thought that I was going to, like, I think we were January and I had 559 subscribers or whatever when that video went out. And I could see that more people were watching it than the previous one. So I thought that was great. But I turned to my son and said, it may take me to June to get to 1,000. And within hours, it just exploded. But it wasn't that video. What had happened was Quilting Digest had found my 5 sewing hacks with masking tape and put it on their website. And that's what gave me the groundswell of new subscribers.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
That really is. In case I missed anybody coming in, Karen and I'd both like to welcome you to tonight's sit-in chat a spell. Becca has just dropped, this is the economy blog, a video Karen is referencing. Thank you, Becca, for doing that. And let me see. I've talked to you about that. What is your creative process? Like when you're getting ready to do a quilt or a project, what's your thoughts on how you get started?
Well, I've learned that every idea I have, I don't need to make into a quilt. That was a big lesson for me to learn. Because one of the parts that I enjoy the most about making a quilt is the first stage. And as I cut the fabric and start making the blocks, my enjoyment level is going down.
I thought that was just a me thing.
So learning that I could just play in the design world and not have to make them. I don't know. It was just a revelation to me. I didn't have to make everything I designed. And that's one reason why I've embraced pre-quilt, because I can go in there and play with colors and designs and things like that and go, oh, look at how that looks and look at that looks. And okay, that's done for today. I'm moving on to something else. When do I jump off? I call it the quilting goddess just shines her light on me, and there's just this magical fusion of either ideas or fabric, or I'm in a place where I can buy something that just really something I really want to use. And I just go from there. I
got it 100%. Your backdrop there where you have your designs, I don't know what the right word is, Did you design that yourself, and how did that come about?
If they're talking about this,
Yes.
I did do a video about that too. That was my new space.
Yeah, because you went from the warehouse to this.
Well, this is the same place.
Oh,
I had this free wall. This is one wall. So on this side, it's blue. And just right there, it's my orange. So I record my regular videos over there, and I do the podcasts and lives over here. They're not plastic. They're a type of acrylic white tile, and they're attached with just small little tack nails.
oh,
And
wow.
we painted them before they went on the wall. And I knew I wanted a backdrop with some texture on it. And I follow a couple by the name of Becky and Chris, and they had the luxury of turning their whole basement into a filming set. And I'm going, "Oh, a little FOMO. I want to do something like that too."
Right.
And they had done some beautiful one with some, what's it called, batten boards, but they were
Oh,
just the tall, narrow ones that were so trendy a couple of years ago. But I realized, my husband explained to me, because I have such high ceilings, it would be really a challenge to do, and it would be expensive to do. So I was trying to come up with some other ideas, some felt tiles or something. And I saw these on Amazon and I grabbed them, and my son was able to help me put this together, and I don't regret it. But I have since gone out and bought some felt tiles also for here, because when I was in the back corner, the sound didn't echo quite so much. Here I find
oh,
there's a lot of bounce, and the felt tiles have helped an awful lot keep that down.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
But I'm telling, that is beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm sure it took a lot of work, but it's
Yeah,
well worth the outcome.
it did. Yeah, it's just funny how little by little you change things and you realize how far you've come.
Oh, absolute. Um, what's your thoughts? I know you do a lot on color theory, the importance of, and how would you describe color theory?
Well, color theory in quilting is different. Like, color theory is really quite different, or just the use of color and understanding how color works in quilting is different. Because in painting and many other types of art, you can get the actual shade that you're looking for. You know, you're looking for the shade of yellow, you just mix your paints and you get it. We are at the mercy of what fabrics are available, right? And print has a big impact on the value. It has a big impact on the shade, and color changes in a quilt too, depending on the light. It's different in sunlight. It's different in evening light. And we look at a quilt from across the room, but as you get closer, you can see the colors. As you get closer, you see the pattern. As you get closer, you see the small little motifs. So it's a very different thing for quilters than it is for other types of artists. And I think that's one of the reasons why we accumulate such a big stash, because we're always thinking, oh, I just don't have the right fabrics. I'm going to buy some more and they'll work together.
That makes total sense.
So I really very much believe you should use what you like. But when you get stuck, that's when color theory can really give you a hand. With your values and things like that. And, you know, how do you, I want to do a quilt with yellows and blues, but why is it looking so flat? Why is it not as vibrant as I want it to do? And that's where color theory can come in and help you.
And that makes a lot of sense. Now you do a lot of videos on like color theory. I've seen that.
Well, I did this, the series, the 4. And whenever I'm talking about a quilt that I'm making, I usually describe why I've made the choices and the colors that I've made.
Yeah, I think I would be looking back at that myself because it makes sense the way that you're explaining it. Let me see. I want to make sure I'm hitting as many as I can. Do you ever, or have you ever found yourself lacking in creativity?
Oh, there's days when definitely the creativity is not there. And that's why I'm always talking about having some little projects that you can just quickly pick up and be brainless. I think one of the big things behind creativity is people have to understand that it's often come from your brain's just tired. You know, you've made too many decisions that day, or there's too many decisions to be made that week, and you just don't have anything left over to, am I using this color thread or that color of thread? So having those projects, I call them bonus. In my case, it's what I call bonus blocks, things that I've cut out of scraps, so they're just ready to go, and I can sit down and make those, and or I can do the crumb strip blocks, and that if I don't become more creative, uh, if it doesn't make me more creative just by doing that, at least I feel like I've got something done. Like it's just very satisfying to produce something and it's filled my bucket in a little way. Now I'm a quilter. I'm actually very sad that I didn't have quilting earlier in my life. You know, as a mother of four, there were a number of times when I felt very flat out in the creativity side, and it would have helped me a lot at those times.
How long have you been quilting?
Not as long as you'd think. I started quilting, I think, in 2007.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're right. You're so seasoned, or you know what I mean. Um, you inspire, and so many of us, and I speak for everybody, has learned so much from you. You inspire us to be better every time we watch your videos, and it's a lot.
Thank you.
We all grow from that. Um, have you ever like hit a wall? This is one with the process of making a pattern. You get it in your head the way you want it, and then you're trying to do it, it won't work.
I don't have a problem with it from a math point of view. I know how to do that. Um, there's been times where I don't know what colors to choose, or you know, I get a project half done and realize I don't really want to finish it. This is not doing anything for me. So they end up in the UFO file and they're in the back of my head. I'm almost done my UFOs. I'm actually at that point where um, they're almost done. But recently I have not, I don't, she calls it a wall. So there's definitely walls I come to with projects, but it just takes a little time to sit aside. And then part of the problem is maybe I've been diverted for some reason, and it just takes time to load all the information back into your head. This is what I was going to do. This is what I was going to do next. This is how many more blocks I need, you know, those type of things. But in the last couple of years, I've really not hit a wall where I could not go forward with something. And I'm just the type of person that can work on 5 different projects at once.
Oh, God love you. I keep a lot of balls in the air normally too. So I know it's like if I get bored on one, I'll hop to the next and bounce around, and eventually they're all done.
Yeah.
But it took a while to get there. Before it was like I would step on it long and sew because I wanted to see it all come together when I was learning. Let me see. If you could, because you do amazing interviews, if you could interview anybody that you have not already done, who would it be?
Oh, I'm actually very lucky in most of the people that I've put feelers out have come back to me and said yes. I even had Lucy Adlington on the show this year. I've been able to get uh, Cassia Sinclair on the show. I got Mary Fons on the show. I'm always very surprised at who says yes. There's been a couple
Right.
of people I haven't been able to get through. I know Safar uh Safir, I keep, sorry, I got a little bit of eyelash here. Um keep missing each other. she's a busy woman with family, and we just keep missing each other. So we'll keep at it, keep
You'll
trying.
get there.
I find the world just so fascinating with textiles, and I have such a newfound appreciation for textiles everywhere that I just keep reaching out. I just keep reaching out, and hopefully there's just no limit to them. I can go down this hole, I can go down this avenue, and some days I think, oh, who am I going to interview? And then something will happen, and I'll send emails out to 5 people, and 3 will respond, and I'll be fine for the next month and a half.
I love your interviews. I sit and listen to them at night. I put on my earbuds and just listen away. Tracy at the Sewing Channel says, hi to us. Karen, I love your latest felt pouch. Words are hard. Felt pouch tutorial. I've never seen felt that thick before. Sorry.
Well, I actually never saw felt that thick either. The felt that was in the tote bag that I repaired, I actually think came from another industry. Like, felt is huge. We don't realize it, but it's in electronics, it's in buildings, it's a sound dampener, and a couple of other, and a vibration tool or preventer. And I was surprised, like, we got them in our snow boots. You just suddenly start looking through, we've got felt everywhere. But when I did my, rabbit hole finding more about thread, I actually found out that there's a factory just outside my city. And I went over there to visit, and they were wonderful. They answered all these questions that I had about them, but came home with some beautiful things that I just couldn't wait to play with. And it's funny because I'm showing the sleeve and the pocket and the pouches to different people, and they're like, can I have one? Can I have one? They're really quite popular.
That's cool. Let me see.
It was also good exercise to use those fancy stitches on our machines.
Yes. I like to use mine on my Singer because I have a Juki I sew with. And then like when I want to do something fancy, I use the Singer. And every time I do the binding now, I'm going around after I flip it over and putting something fancy in to make it look like really nice. Let me see. Die of Sister Chicks says she has piles and piles of UFOs too. How do you work through them?
Well,
do you have a method that you do?
You've got to be honest with yourself. Like, think of what a UFO is. A UFO is a decision that you made many years ago. You're a different person now. You're a different type of quilter, maybe. You may even be in a different home, in a different location. And we made that mistake when we took a workshop or something of committing to the whole quilt before we even made one block. And you just maybe have to come to terms with, this is not a project you want to finish. That's why they're a UFO. Like, there's something that's preventing you from getting back into it. What is it? Is it that you've made a mistake? Do you like the project? Do you like the person you were intending to give it to? There's so many things that change. And just let it go if it's not a hell yes, because life is too short to be, and you sounds like you've got lots of UFOs too. So do you really want to spend the next 3 years finishing off these projects? Is that a good use of your energy and time?
Yeah, I think Becca calls it like quilt abandonment or something. I can't think of the word. It's okay to let it go. Just let it go.
Let it go. It's okay to let it go. Some people worry about the money and things like that, and you just realize it's left your bank account a long time ago. And you've got to often put more money into it to finish it. You got to buy the batting, you got to buy the backing, so.
And that's true. Becca, thank you. She just blessed us with 5 memberships. Thank you, Becca. She says, just a little something to celebrate Donna's return to Friday nights. You're going to make me cry. Well, how fitting is it? My Friday nights is with Miss Karen to kick off. um, Trace hit the sewing channel. My UFO either hits, wait a minute. My UFO either hit the round bobbin or the Goodwill. LOL.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quit bankruptcy, she called it, Becca
Oh,
said.
bankruptcy. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, that's a good one. I couldn't remember the word she used, and I thought it was just too cute when she and I talk. There's times I hit the wall and I'm just like, Becca, I'm just gonna call one out. I have this beautiful pattern zoology. Becca and I was we kicked it off and I got sidetracked, she got sidetracked, and it's one of those ones, all the fabric's cut, but I'm gonna bless someone. Somebody's gonna get it in the mail one day. Oh Lord. Let me see. What's the hardest process for you for making a pattern?
Making a pattern's really easy for me. My brain can do the math, loves to figure out how to make things. If it's a little bit challenging, actually, the more challenging, the better. I mean, we all have difficulty visualizing it. And pre-quilt is good with that, and you can apply some color. They do have a function now where you can actually import a picture of the print and take a look at it as well.
Oh.
But I do like the surprise, because I always find no matter how nice a pattern looks, it looks better when it's a quilt.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the texture and the warmth and everything that happens to it, it always ends up looking so much better than I possibly thought it could be. As long as I get the values well distributed in the planning phase, I have never been disappointed when I put it together.
I think that's awesome. And I have a couple other channels that popped in, so I want to make sure that I say something. Heather the Debt-Free Quilter's here, Ian Off Kilter Crafter is here.
Hi, Ian.
So Louise of I Quilt Too is here, and So Be It Quilts, Miss Fallon is in the house. Dia Sister Chicks is in the house. And I think I got them all caught up. Have you ever done a pixelated quilt?
I did not a pixelated quilt of a thing like a rose or something like that, but my husband wanted a camouflage quilt, and he wanted a blue camouflage quilt. So I took 13, 14 colors of blue, and I just made took squares. Some of them are not squares, some of them are a little bit are rectangles, some of them are a little bit longer strips, and I put them together. I wonder if I can find a picture of that quilt for you. And really loved it. Really loved when it was done. And I made it the size that my husband wanted.
Oh, is that the one that you did really long?
It's a
You
long,
did
skinny
one,
one.
I can't remember, long and skinny.
Let me just share this one picture here with you.
And Lynn, so imperfect.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
there.
Hold
Okay.
on, he's fixing it now for us. Screen share Joe, the green one.
I think I've
There
got to
you
be
go.
co-host. I've got to be co-host.
Yeah.
Here it is. Yeah. So this is one. So it's not pixelated, but it's done with those small squares. Actually, I really enjoyed making this quilt. I had to do a lot of partial seams in it. He hasn't figured it out yet, but I actually did a maze with the quilting. So there's an entrance to it and there's an exit to it. And one day when we have grandchildren, maybe that'll happen.
That is so beautiful. I like how you laid it out in the snow. I was like, how gorgeous. That really made it pop. Tracy Louise, thank you for becoming a super supporter, and see Real, I'm not going to get that right. Real 64, thank you. I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge. Let me see. Can you remember your first sewing space compared to what you have now?
Yes, I was very lucky. When I decided to do quilting, are you talking about quilting or just sewing in general?
Just your sewing in general.
Well, I started sewing as a young woman. I believe I made my first thing when I was about 10 years old. And I sewed a lot of my own clothes as a young adult, just because they fit me that way. Didn't understand about colors and things like at that point, but I made a lot of my own clothes. But once I had kids, I had no time for quilting, but it was just a sewing machine. I got my first Bernino when I was about 20. It was just before I got married. Yeah. And it was just sat on the table. It looks so small now compared to my big machines that I have, but and I had a bucket where I kept all my threads and notions and things like that. When I started quilting, even though I wasn't really a quilter, I hadn't made a quilt or whatever, I invested in that Sylvia Designs table because it packs up so nice and tightly. You know,
Oh,
the sewing machine drops into it. And then all the boards and the cutting surface comes down, and I could tuck a chair underneath it as well. And it stored a lot of most of my sewing supplies as well. So as a young woman with a young family, it could sit really nicely in a corner of the basement and come out at Halloween when I needed to produce some costumes.
oh wow. What is the one you have now? Like when you convert your room, your sewing room before you moved,
The
where it was a bedroom and then you
Yeah,
moved.
that's still the same thing. I've had it for oh
What
my
what table is that? I can't
called
remember.
Sylvia's Designs.
Sylvia's. I want to write that down because
Sylvia's
I
Designs.
told my husband
Sylvia's.
that is so cool.
Yeah. And it's
Uh,
not sponsored.
no, no, no. But I think that is so cool because I love the way you were able to just like package it up and wheel it away.
It is a heavy piece of equipment. It's not light or it's not IKEA in any shape or form. It is heavy. When it got moved into the basement, I can remember the people that did it. And I remember when I moved it into my condo, the effort that it took to get it up the stairs. But so you
Oh,
only want to move it a couple of times in its lifetime, but it will last a lifetime. You will not need another machine
absolutely.
or a piece of furniture.
Charlotte, I couldn't remember. That's why I was struggling. I'm so sorry. The one I couldn't pronounce right. Her name's Charlotte. Let me see. Um, do you have a favorite quilting tool that you like to use?
I have a core set of tools. I know I did a um a video on my top 10 tools, and they were not randomly chosen. Those are things that I use every single day. So the things that I keep in my zone one would be my snips, um, my LDH snips, my Clover stitch ripper. I also have a Clover stylus right there. I've got a little some tweezers that came with my machine. I've got my brush that I clean my machine with, and I keep a core group of bobbins right there on that side. In this drawer right here beside me, I keep the 3 different sizes of rotary cutters, my good scissors, my seam roller, and then underneath that, I just have some miscellaneous stuff.
Oh,
I have a pin cushion right beside me, and I'm not married to any type of pin, but I use a number of different ones. I have the short Spanish lace ones. I have the big ones. I use that when I'm trying to keep more pieces of fabric together. I have the flat ones when I don't want them to take up too much space. I use clips. Something that's new to my space is magnets. I really discovered them at QuiltCon, not this year, but the previous year. I had known that they were used in English paper piecing, but I find they're heavy, so you can't use them all the time. But I find when when I'm trying to keep big, heavy pieces together, like when you're sewing things into
Mhm.
strips, they're really good to help keep things together. Um, and of course, I use them on my long arm and
Are those
but
the round ones like about that? Or are they
some of them
big?
are round, some of them are rectangles. I bought an assorted set. Um, and the magnums for the long arm are really like, I think there's 4 magnets and they're heavy. But I just use the light ones.
Okay. I've got multiple people asking me about the chair you're sitting in now.
This
What
is
kind of chair?
this is the Flexi Spot one. They sponsored a couple of videos and I could not believe how much this has helped me. Last year I was dealing with trigeminal neuralgia. I still have it. I've just got it
Right.
under control with some good medication. But part of it, I went down this rabbit hole of posture and everything. I didn't have a really good lumbar support. Um, I had a chair that had it, but it was not adjustable so that I
Uh,
could make it work the way I wanted it to. So this, I can tilt my chair backwards or forwards, or like I have one in front of my sewing machine and it's in a slightly different position. So I've got this one set up really nicely for working at my computer. I'm not sure if you can see, let me just see here. You can see that it's got a really nice
Oh, that would be
piece right
help.
there that is working really nice on my back. It really gives good support.
That is cool. And then what is your favorite accomplishment as a quilter?
As a quilter, I don't even, I guess
I-
as a YouTuber, I am just so grateful that I have helped people. Like people get value from my channel. I cannot tell you how wonderful it feels that people are empowered to make the quilts that they want to make and understand that there are wrong ways, but there's a lot of right ways too. And you need to find yourself in this practice. Um, Personally, with my quilts, I've come a long way, but I've realized that there's still a lot more to learn. And I've just recently completed some big long-term projects, and that really gives me a chance to look back, over years and saying, "Oh, this is what I used to do, and look at what I'm doing now."
Mhm.
So I think as a quilter, I'm just proud that I've continued to grow.
You definitely have been growing. um, what is that like outside of your house where you hang the quilts? Like, how do I put it?
My husband and the last one I needed 2 people to do because it was a big quilt, but normally it's just my youngest, who is 6'5", 6'6", and he stands on the bed, and that's about maybe 2 feet above the driveway level. So
Oh,
the quilt can fall down and get its full height.
it's just so cool. And I love the way they do that. And I'm just like, ah.
Yeah, when they started doing that online, I thought that's a very clever way to show a quilt.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's just it makes sure that everybody can see it. Um, posture terrible. Let me see. One thing is you make quilting so affordable. People going back into your videos. Your dollar store, Dollar
Dollar store.
General, something like that. Where you were showing like hauls. Do you still do those?
Um, I, I, I've got I'm trying to get some ideas together for some other ones to do. Um, they, there's a lot of people that have copied that in, 45 things I bought from the dollar store and things like that. So they don't stand out as much, and I don't know whether there's as much to teach them. In the first two, like there was a lot to show people. Just think of using this a little bit differently in your quilting. Um, I've got a couple that I'm thinking about doing. If there's enough of a groundswell support, maybe I'll get some action behind them.
Absolute. And I've got people texting now asking me, you said ironing board, you made your an ironing station. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, at that time, I did not have a third bedroom in my house. That was a second bedroom that my son was living in. He had come back to university. He surprised us. We didn't think he was coming back home after university. And this is my number 3. But he did. And that was fine with us. But that meant all my sewing stuff was in my bedroom. And I needed an ironing surface. And I realized, an ironing board, I did not want an ironing board. They're so rickety. They're never the right height. They're so hard to set up and put down. But I wanted to have something in my space that added to the space. So I chose a really nice rack. It's not just the plain aluminum. It's actually like a bronze. It's coated with a bronze paint. And it would have storage underneath it. So it could actually take some of this quilting stuff that I had lying around, and I could.
That's the one you did where you added the wheels.
I added the wheels.
Move it.
So it can move back and forth. So my husband was really on side with it. I showed him what I wanted to do, and he said, that's an excellent idea. So I put it together. He helped me with a couple of the tools that I needed. So he had a pipe cutter. He certainly had the drill and the staple gun and things like that. So I made it all on my own, but I needed his tools.
Yeah, mine wouldn't let me touch him. He'd be like, no, I can do this for you. You are lucky. Let me see.
But that now is over 5 years old, and I would not change it at all. I am always so grateful for it. I've just put a new cover on it because it needed it. But no, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I love to go into everybody's videos, but yours in particular, the how-tos, and trace over to Sewing Channel, how you take an idea and bring it to full circle. It's just amazing where I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what can I do with this spot? And then like a week or 2 later, I see you guys and I'm like, they're in my head.
Yeah, I've been that way too, going, there's the right information at the right time.
That's the answer I wanted. That is too cute. Let me see. What would you like to do in the world of quilting that you have not already done? Is there anything?
I've struggled with the idea of entering shows, whether I want to or I don't. I don't really make quilts for others. I make them for myself, and I'm just kind of playing with that overlap. Is there a place for an idea that I want to make that would be show worthy? And when I mean show worthy is, for me, a quilt lies on a bed, but a quilt is judged at a show hanging on a wall.
Right.
So there's different elements in it. Am I making it specifically for that? I'm not sure if you remember my interview with Peter Byrne, but he was making quilts specifically for shows.
Yes.
And he did excellent work. And I just don't know. I definitely don't want to enter into the traditional quilting world because I just don't care that much about perfection. And if you look at those beautiful quilts that win Houston, I mean, they are perfect.
Yeah.
But I like to play with that idea of design and that cross between idea and execution.
I have a new question that came. Have you ever done circles, complete circles? I've not seen it, but you probably have.
I've done circles, but not the way that Cotton and Bourbon does circles. I've done them with reverse applique. I have done them with applique, but I'm not afraid of curves. It's just really not my energy. I like playing with symmetry. I like playing with angles, and a circle within other geometric shapes I would be interested in, but doing those absolutely spectacular. Like, I mean, I just can stare at those quilts that Audrey does for hours at QuiltCon.
Oh yeah.
Just so perfectly executed. But saying
Uh,
that I don't want to do it doesn't mean there isn't something that I could learn from it. So I was watching one of Audrey's videos one time, and she had a couple of points on how to long arm straight lines. And I'm going, oh, jeepers, I didn't know that. I never even thought you could do that. So
oh, okay.
there's still things for me to learn by doing those type of things. So it's not that I don't ever intend to make a circle quilt, but I could certainly enjoy taking a workshop with her.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Donna's sister Chicks is saying, Karen, will you share the square footage of your sewing room? I quilt in the smallest room in my home. Do you think size matters in a sewing room?
Size matters in the capacity of a sewing room, but you can be very successful in a small space. I had a friend that her sewing space was a closet. She opened the door and her sewing machine was inside. She made some custom shelves, so her sewing machine was at the right height. I think her ironing board came down from one of the doors, and it was a wonderful setup. I used to be in the smallest, when I had an office and I was in the smallest room in our home. It was, sure, if it was even 6 by 9. And
Ooh.
I had to do a lot of paperwork and everything at home. And, I was just constantly shifting buckets and piles and things like that so I could sew. I sewed on one side and I did the computer work and everything on the other side. You just have
Um,
to make some decisions, and some of them are hard. After I do the declutter challenge, I have people saying, well, how do I do it in a 6 by 6 room? And I have an embroidery machine, I have a serger, I have a sewing machine, and I have a sit down long arm. And the answer is no, you can't do
no,
it. The answer is just simply no. When you downsize, sometimes the decisions are really hard.
absolute.
Yeah.
My sewing Hermed says my sewing room is my dining room table. So it was mine for a long time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that do their sewing at a dining room table. If it's a formal dining room table, how many people actually use their dining room table on a regular basis? So, you just put all that stuff the 3 or 4 times a year that you have to sit everybody at the table. If it's just your family one, take a look at my small room sewing hack. And I also had another video on 10 tips for sewing in a small area. I did this small rack. And you could do everything. You could pack everything away in it, including your rulers, and it had a lamp and with a charger on it. It's one of my things that I thought was very clever.
Yeah, right now I'm back in my dining room where I started. It's funny how life takes you full circle. And I'm literally sat up right there.
The real trick with managing your space is, like, the things that you need to use often need to be easily accessed. So if you're going to if you have to put your sewing machine away, you don't want to tuck it at the back of a closet. You want to have it easy so that you can just pick it back up and put it there.
Oh, absolute. If I had to pack it all up all the time, oh, I'd be telling him it's time to move. I can't do that. I like organization. Um,
Yeah.
when I first did your clean out challenge, it was the patterns. That was my hardest thing to, when I first started, if someone sent me one, I would print it right away. And I did not realize how many I had until it was like your declutter. And I remember this. And I even dated them when I got them. And I was like, what was I thinking? There's no way I'm going through a stack like this
But
and ever be able to do them all.
But I
I
was excited as well when I was a beginner, and people would give me patterns and I go, oh
can't
yeah, look, I've
look.
got a pattern. And I would actually think about, oh, I could make it like this and like this. And then realize I don't want to make this.
Uh,
It's just because I didn't have any other patterns to choose from
right. Back then I was
back
so,
then.
yeah. And now I look like I decluttered more than half. And now I'm doing like you had recommended. I just put them in a safe folder now. And then about 2 times a year, I'll slip down through it. And I'm like, nah, I've lost interest instead of keep printing everything. Let me see. I find lighting to be a challenge in my sewing space. Do you have any suggestions for lighting?
Lighting is really tricky. My sewing space at home has terrible light. I have two great big LED camera lights that I bought for just to light it so I could film. But there's a problem with LED lights that we didn't have with incandescent in that's a property called luminosity. You know, they're bright, but they don't actually light far away from the lights.
Mhm.
So invest in a good light to go over your sewing machine. Mine, I bought at QuiltCon 2017 or 19. It was the Daylight Company, and that's that long, skinny one that was over my machine. And I don't regret a dime of it. It was expensive, but it is just perfect. It lights the space so much. And there's track lighting that you can buy, and they all join together. Try to buy the same type of lights, like mixing different temperatures can bring difficulty. Fluorescence can bring their own challenges as well. But there's different ways that you can even have temporary light. You know, there's things that you can clamp onto shelves, um, and then of course there's the cords that go with lights. You know, you got
Oh,
to
yeah.
control that chaos too. So it's hard, but highly recommend getting that really good one for above your your sewing table, because every time I talk about getting an accurate 1/4 inch seam, one of the biggest obvious ones is you've got to be able to see it.
Yeah. If you can't see it, you're never going to hit it.
Yeah. And our eyes are getting older every day.
Absolutely. What is the best advice that you've ever been given?
Oh, I've been given so much good advice over the years. I think one of the kindest things that somebody said to me when I first started quilting was, Karen, I love the way your brain thinks. You think differently. And it was said to me by a quilter I consider a master quilter. And that just made me kind of go, oh, okay.
It's kind of like Happy Hearts.
Um, like I wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel, but she could see that I approached things differently. And that gave just me a lot of confidence that I was on the right path.
Absolutely. If you could give anybody any advice as a new quilter or a seasoned quilter, what would it be?
Ooh, well, I would do the same thing. Just encourage you to find your joy. Like this is something that should bring joy to you. Um, but as a secondary part of that, I would also put up a caution of don't buy too much too soon. I mean, we all get excited about buying fabric and everything, but you learn so much in the first 5 years of quilting. The first 5 years, they've even identified that in the marketing world. Like that's where the quilting companies and the fabric companies and the sewing machine companies make most of their money, is your first 5 years as a quilter, because you're buying the new machine, you're buying all the fabrics, you're buying all the tools and everything. And I just caution you not to buy too much too soon, just because of that other conversation that we had about the UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
You bought too much too soon, and you'll be living, if you buy too much, you'll be living with those decisions for years and years to come.
That makes perfect sense. Do
Yeah.
you find, I'm not, I know the answer, but I'm going to ask. Um, there's people called fabric hoarders, and then there's to where they style their fabric like in their rooms on bookshelves and whatnot. What do you think of that? Is that something, or do you buy per project? That's the question.
No, I realized early on that the way that my brain works and the comfort level that I have, and luckily I do have the money to afford to do it this way. I like to shop for my stash. So I like to be able to say, okay, I need a blue, and be able to go to the wall and find a blue. I don't have every blue under the sky, but I do have enough that I can usually work with something. Um, and I like to just buy from my stash. Put it together. What do I have? Let's see how these things work together. And that's my preferred way. I don't have a budget, but I've been very careful when I've been shopping the last couple of years, to only buy the stuff that I need to complete projects. But I'll say that, and everybody knows that I went to Montreal a couple of months ago and bought a ton of fabric for a
I
couple of.
love when you come back from trips. The other one is do you enjoy the, I want to word this right, cruise, when you cruise, like the teaching cruise? Do you do that, or do you just go on the cruise with friends?
So this is my fourth cruise, the third one where I'm teaching on it. So I did Alaska. We didn't have sewing machines in Alaska, so I was teaching theory classes. We had Panama, where Angie Wilson was with me, and we were teaching Unleash Your Sampler Superpowers. I did the one to Hawaii, but I wasn't teaching on that one. That was with Sissy Sarow and her sister Ray. And on this one, I am teaching a master class in the kaleidoscope block. So the Panama Canal one had a lot of teaching in it. This one has less teaching, but we do have sewing machines, and I'm looking forward to it. The cruises, I had never been on a cruise before I went to Alaska, and I could not believe how much fun it was for my husband and I to travel that way and to be with quilters. Both my husband and I are introverted. I'm a little bit more extroverted than he is, but being with a group of people that have the same interests that you have. Not only did I have things in common with the quilters, he had common things with the husbands and partners of quilters.
Oh, that makes it fun.
Yeah, and when we went to Panama and there were a number of the same people on board, it was so nice as a couple, even just to run into these people again and sit down and have dinners with them. And then there were people that came to Hawaii with me that had been on previous cruises, and Hawaii was a very special one. That was really, really nice. I have my whole family with me. I do that cruise to Hawaii again in a second. And I'm
Oh,
really looking forward to Iceland. We've already had a couple of meetings online. Another great group of people. A number of them have traveled with me before, and I think it's going to be just a fabulous time.
that would be so beautiful.
So my husband has a little bit of accessibility issues. So I shouldn't say a little. He cannot walk long distances. So traveling on a cruise and being able to either rent a car or go on an excursion is a good way for us to do things together.
That makes it perfect.
Yeah, and when I'm teaching, he is off taking lectures or sitting doing some projects that he brought with himself to do. I don't want to be with them 24/7. I want
No.
to be with I'm with my friends, and then we all get together for dinner. That's the real surprising thing for me, was the getting together for dinner with everyone. You never had to worry about who am I going to sit with, who am I going to talk to. There was always interesting things happening.
Absolute. When I cruise, I love it. Being put at a table, you have no clue who you're going to be with, but there's always such good conversation.
So on the quilting cruise, we have tables where we all sit, but we're a group of 30 people, 40 people. So you're always sitting with someone different.
Oh, that would be cool. Welcome, Zeb, for being a channel contributor. Dive's Sister Chicks has a question for you. It says, Karen, what size do you buy your stash in? Yards, half yards, or fat quarters?
So I now look at my fabric at purpose driven. So I look at a fabric and say, what am I going to do with this? Is this a big pattern, pattern that would be used in a border, or am I going to use it in a back? Is it a stripe? Am I going to put it in a binding? Is this a tone on tone that's just going to be a mixer? Or is this going to be something that I fussy cut, and I'm looking at how many repeats are in it? So I'm looking at it that way. So if it's going to be used as a binding, then I calculate how much am I thinking it's going to be for an 80-inch quilt, or 80 by 80, or is it going to be for a king quilt or something like that? For a border, calculate that out. I bought fabric a couple of years ago. I knew I was going to do a 1-block wonder out of it. So I calculated how much yardage I needed with the repeats. And my default is a half yard, but there's many things I only buy a 1/4 yard of. Like if it's a small tone on tone and things like that I like. I make the mistake that everybody else makes, and that is that we buy the same color over and over and over again. So I'm very aware now that I do not need any more orange in my stash.
Mine
It's
is
got to be a pretty I just need to make sure that it's a pretty print. That's what I don't seem to collect. I don't seem to collect those beautiful multicolored prints that much. So I'm trying, if I buy them, that's what I'm leaning towards now.
Do you have a favorite designer?
Tula Pink, I have so much respect for. She is such an incredible businesswoman and a designer. I'm not so fond of her big hero animal prints, but there's almost always one print within every collection that I just have to have. And because she's designed her prints so that you can use them with older lines, I would say that I always buy something from her, but I'm not really a designer oriented quilter. I don't care if I have the latest of this person or I have that. I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of my stash that, oh, this is made by this person and this person. I don't look at my stash that way. So I don't really care who makes it. It's got to be a motif that I like.
Yeah, that's how I am. I'm not really good with the designers yet.
Yeah.
I like all fabric.
Well, there's just a cohort of people that really love having that encyclopedic knowledge.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
if the thing was baseball, they would have all the stats in their head, right? So in quilting, those type of people know the designers, know the years, know the name of the line.
I wouldn't. I'm not that person.
No, I'm not that person.
Let me see. This has been a great first back show. Thank you, Donna and Karen from Sherry. Fabulous cause I do a lot of charity quilts. So my friends have all chipped in. We're doing charity quilts for Ronald McDonald House right now to give back because my granddaughter she had to have a heart transplant this year.
Oh.
So she's just turned 9 a few days before the transplant. So all of my friends got together and we're all making quilts, and then I'm going to take them over with my husband to Pittsburgh, and we're going to make the donation on top from everybody that sent in.
So when was her operation?
March 7th.
How's she doing?
She's doing really good. She was here the other night and she said she was teasing me, acting like she was going to eat up my whole face. We don't get to see her so much, but she's going this Sunday to heart camp with all of her doctors and all the patients in the children's hospital that had heart transplants. So the medical team pampers them for a whole week of giving them anything they want. So she's really excited. Let me see. Do you have a special fabric or stash fabric that you refuse to cut into?
No, but I definitely have ones I love that I'm waiting for the special project to come in my head of what I'm going to do with it.
Let me see. I want to make sure I don't miss any. Do you ever buy from Soya Fabrics?
No, no. I've got plenty of people close to me where I can buy fabric from.
Do you ever sew kits?
Not recently. I will be doing John from Art East Quilting.
I love him.
I am doing his what do they call it? The Enchanted Wood. Basically is
Enchanted Forest.
Enchanted Forest. The Winnie the Pooh quilt for next year. I'm doing it by a kilt. And I did his previous one, not last year's one. Actually, maybe it's 2 years ago. I did his trending quilt. Trending.
Ooh.
That's a quilt that's a UFO for me, and I just need to put the blocks together.
Yeah, I've got 2 more weeks I'm waiting on, and then I'm going to be able to wrap up this last one he did. His work is amazing.
I love how he infuses the characters with personality. It's
Yeah.
not just a goat, it's a goat in pajamas. I love his space bacon and the wiener dog and
That was too funny how he made I'm like, when we email back and forth, I'm like, where do you get these? Because I told him, I said, just send me all the blocks at once. And he goes, no, because he knows we're going to record them so that we can do this for him. And he's like, no, because you'll spill the tea, Donna. I said, I wouldn't do that to you. But I just wanted to get it done. And I'm jonesing to get that one done. Let me see. Fabric patch couples updated on you and your granddaughter. Sue, thank you. Fabric patch has been really amazing. Sending a lot of prayers up and all the supporters over there. They've been amazing to Harper.
Cindy Rand is an amazing woman.
I just love her and her daughter, her whole family.
I'm green with envy that she has her family all involved. Because
I think that's wonderful. I'm just like, I text her a lot. And she's invited Joe and I to come out, and I really want to do that this coming summer. Let me get stronger and just go out. She's got the I call them cabins, but there might be a new word out there. And she told us, come stay. We don't have to quilt, but she'll show us around out there. And I'm like, I could maybe talk him into that one. She will have a great time at camp. My sister was a nurse at the muster for what is it? I can't say it. Muscular dystrophy camp. Okay. I can read. I'm a nurse. I just the words are so hard. Let me see. You guys can make the words easy. Evident, I'd love to hear your take on your question. Where is it? Just trying to find. Karen, what one thing you wish were different about the quilting community?
Oh, I think people should like there's always such a worry and gossip and things like that. Um,
Amen.
and I wish people would just respect other people and not worry about it so much. You know, gossip and that type of chatter happens when people feel uncomfortable, they're fearful, or they're not confident in themselves. And I just wish that energy would just go into lifting each other up. Um, because
Amen.
there's so many amazing people in this community, and that should be cherished and supported. Supported.
I think so too. We see a lot of it too. And it's like we should be lifting each other up and put that energy into building each other. Joe says that should be everywhere for all.
And
um,
we should actively try and shut it down too. You know, when people turn to you and say, "Do you think Taylor Swift is pregnant?" No,
I'd be
you know, like
like,
that's not our business.
I would be like, if she didn't tell me, I don't want to know.
You know, and things like that. You know, when you hear that somebody's had a bad day or a bad experience with someone, it's sitting down like, what happened to that person that, you know, they treated you so badly, as opposed to jumping on the bandwagon of all these people are
All the better.
all bad, you know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like it.
Well, you got to just take a stand back a bit too. You know, there's so many people that are struggling so hard. You know, you sit back and even just remember what your parents were like when you were a child, and you were saying, "Oh, you know, I wish my mom would do this and I wish my dad would do that." And you realize that so many people are just trying to make ends meet. You know, there's so
Right.
much that you have to do and so much stress on people that it's not about you. It's all about them. They're having a bad day, and you're just you might be the person, or what they're saying is just trying to relieve some kind of stress within them.
Absolutely. Kitty Scott says, and nobody knows what another is going through. Life is sometimes hard, and we should approach everyone with kindness and warmth.
Yes, and I realize even within myself that on days when I'm thinking, oh, you know, like, what can I do it like this person? Or why did she do this to me? Or something like that. I realize, oh, or even just even picking on my husband, I realize, oh, I'm having a bad day. There's something else that's bothering me here. It's not about him. It's about me. What's
Right.
wrong in my day? So, yeah,
I think we all do. And we don't mean to, you know what I mean? But we find ourselves being a little bit salty and we shouldn't. Or if someone's having a bad day, they might use you as sounding board and then circle back. I didn't mean to come across like what I know I did.
yeah.
Um, I grew up 5 miles from Afora. I'm not Afreta, but was already grown in a way when the fabric patch opened. My mom was excited about it, so she took me to the first time. Awesome. Karen, thanks for sticking with me, girl. Some of this is like, I want to make sure I don't miss anything for you. And I did not realize I've had you on for an hour and a half. And I thank you.
I told you I'd answer all the questions.
Yes, absolutely. Does anybody have any more questions that we haven't covered yet? Now is your golden 15 minutes because I don't want to keep her up all night. Um, has Karen ever thought about designing a line of fabric?
I thought about it. Do have some skills in Illustrator and design, but I realize that I'm just not in that stage of my life. You know, I'm in my 60s now. I've touched wood. I have two healthy parents. I have four healthy children. One is married, but I know that that could change any second. I could have grandchildren. Um, one of my parents may need some more help. And I just need to be flexible. Like, I'm not building a company the way I would have if I was 40 years old.
Right.
I've tried to keep this very light and nimble. So if I need to take 2 weeks off, or I need to channel some energy somewhere, I don't have a staff of 10 people that I need to worry about.
Absolutely.
So I've made some real conscious decisions on that.
Absolutely. Let me see. What is the chat's moving? You made it go dark. I can't see. What is your bucket list quilted travel experience?
I would like to, there's a number of quilt shows around the world like I'd like to get to. I'd like to get to the one in Japan. I'd like to get to one in Australia. I'd like to get to the one in France, and I'd like to get to the one in Birmingham, England. So
That would be gorgeous.
So I'm actually aiming for France in 2025. And then maybe Japan 2026.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
Jean, thank you. Christine's asking, would Karen consider doing a video series on math and quilting in regards to creating a pattern from scratch?
I actually have a course that I'm trying to finish up. It's going to be coming in the fall. So they're going to be a package of 3. The aim is to help you use up your stash, and quilty math is part of that. So in designing your own patterns. So look for
Stay
that.
tuned.
Yeah.
Ruth Roberts, just want to know how Karen prioritizes her projects.
Well, when you make a YouTube video, it's just me. When I make a YouTube video, it's just me. There's no person behind me that's holding the camera. There's no person helping me write the script, or helping me sew anything. It's just me. I do have Gina, who now helps me with some of the back end of it, but making the videos is still very much all me. And I have to go with what is passionate at that moment. I have videos that I've lined up. I can make this one, I can make this one, I can make this one, but what is the one that's going to shine bright? And sometimes I'll be doing something and a video will just go, oh, you never ever thought about this one. And it's not even in the lineup, but it's somehow the brightest one to make right at that moment. And that will be next. Since I work with an editor, I have to have a script because they have to be able to edit to something. So that was a big change. That came in 2020, I think, or 2021. I hired my first editor. And that has helped a lot because I have to get the whole idea down on paper before I talk. Sometimes I make it first and then I talk about what I'm doing, but then I get just the information that I need in that script. I don't wander off onto different tangents, which you sometimes can do. And sometimes it's also, what is this video about? Sometimes I start a video and I'm really not sure. So if I can't make it into a script, I don't know what that video is about. I had a hard time with this felt one. It went back and forth a couple of times, this last one on felt, because I've made a couple of other things for my trip. And originally it was going to be things that I made for my trip. And that didn't quite work as a YouTube video. And then it came back to, okay, we're just talking about the electronics portion. Because it still has to make it into a 13 to 15-minute video. It's not a half-hour video. So yeah, it's a challenge. But it's a good challenge. It's a good challenge. And some weeks I don't have any ideas, and another week I'll have way too many.
I keep a running list and then I mark them. And if something else looks better below it, I'll scratch and move all over the place.
Yeah.
Let me see. Joe, you need to come down. Give me the mouse a minute. Thank you, honey. When and where is Karen's next public appearance, and for what occasion?
Well, I'm on the cruise, and then in September I have a textile tour to Holland that I'm leading. When I get back, I will be teaching at Quilts for Survivors at the end of
Ooh.
September. And I don't think I have any other public appearances. I don't like the big quilting shows and things like that. I'm not on their radar because I'm not a quilt submitter. Um, so they don't approach me for classes or anything. And I'm also not a vendor. So that also means that I'm not in a certain channel of offerings. I do lectures online, but I don't travel for lectures. So the next time you may see me in public will be QuiltCon in 2025 in Phoenix.
Absolute. Karen, you are a class act and love listening to your approach to quilting. And Donna, so glad to see you getting better, and a great show tonight, ladies. Thank you, Tracy. I'm going to be in Birmingham one for the first time this year. Let me see. I'm trying to Jean, welcome. Everybody's saying they like this tonight. The Seven Channel, Miss Tracy. It's just me too, Karen. One woman show.
Yeah.
You girls, I just love yous. You're gonna like this one. Do you have a blooper reel?
Um, no.
I don't want Joe to ever put a blooper reel for me either.
I've included a couple of little like I never hide the mistakes, you know. If I make a mistake, I tell you how I got out of that mistake. And I'm speaking from a script, so there's not a lot like it's right in my hand. So there's not a lot of times that I say what I'm not supposed to say. And even the one time when Mando came in and took down the lighting equipment, that made it into the video. So
You let it roll. Sister Jakes. Donna and Karen, thank you for the live tonight. I appreciate you too for putting it on. I love this quilting community. Absolutely die. The quilting community is so healing in many ways. Thank you for being here, Karen, and welcome back. Donna Sue, thank you. Nancy, thank you. You're so kind. Let me see.
you know, one of the wonderful things about this YouTube community is we're not competitors.
No.
We are collaborators. And it doesn't matter whether people watch your channel first and then they watch mine, or they watch mine and then they watch yours. We're all in this together. And just because somebody's watched my channel on binding doesn't mean they won't go to you to watch your channel on binding, because you may have something more to offer, or it's just a different time of day, or you're teaching it a different way and you learn from it. And that's the wonderful thing about YouTube. You know, we were brought up on television shows where you had to make a choice. Were you watching this or this because it was gone?
Yep.
And that's the wonderful thing. It's just always so nice. Like when I run into another YouTuber, it's not that. It's
No.
yay.
It's like, let me pluck your brain, not because I want to steal your ideas. It's like, let's build each other up. And that's what makes it so good. Well, I make 3 then and 1. We can't all have a Joe. No, we can't. Joe is the man. Teresa Louise making dinner and listening. Day. Thanks, Donna and Karen. A great interview. I learned a lot by the questions asked. Have a great night and weekend, everybody. I will see you at retreats. um, this was great to see you both tonight. I enjoyed Karen's channel for years.
Thank you.
Michelle the Quilter. I see it now, Heather Woman. I'm just skimming. We'd all love to have Joe the Tech Man for sure. Yes. He gives a tight ship here. My first time catching your channel, Donna, and so glad it's with my favorite quilts, Karen. I love quilting for many years, but I always learn something new from watching her. Thank you. I do too. I feel like I'm her YouTube stalker. I make my circles, and then I'm like, if something's on my list and I see somebody else going to do it, I mark it off, and
I do
I'll
that
do it
too.
in a year. I'd rather do that than everybody see the same thing.
Well, I'm also really defensive for people's technique as well. Like if I take a workshop with someone, I don't do a video on it because it's their
Yeah.
technique, it's their thing. And
Yep.
I just leave
Like,
it. If you want to learn more about it, you go to them.
yep. Like if I do something and I'm working a project, like Tracy, I'm going to be doing her 70s quilt pattern while I'm at retreats. And I'll plug, like if I do a little short on it, I'll plug over to her channel because this is her pattern. And stuff like that, I'll push over to whomever. I'm like, I learned it here or I did that, but I'm not going to do a whole tutorial. I would never. What is the optimal video length?
Depends on the YouTuber.
Mhm.
Because even though there's an overlap between Donna's and my viewers, there's something about the way that Donna does her videos that's her community. And then there's something about the way I do videos, and that's my community.
Mhm.
And for me, the optimum length is between 10 to 15 minutes because I'm aiming for people that are going to consume my content in a coffee break,
Yep.
where other people are they've got different ideas and they do it differently. And like this Friday night chat, people are doing things differently when they sit down to watch this chat. They're maybe have their dinner with me, maybe they have popcorn.
Absolutely. We never know.
You never know. And you're here for a long time. You know, when you sit down, you're going to be here for a long time.
Absolutely. Good night. Who is living? Fallon. Thank you. She says she has early morning call.
Yeah.
Um, Great discussion, ladies. Thank you, Karen, for answering all questions. Martha's creative life is here. She's telling everybody good night. Trying to move chat up, and I always mess it up. Auntie Anne's, totally true. I'm a lurker on many YouTube channels. Commenting here. Kitty, thank you. Are there any new gadgets? We've already did that. Um, I don't know.
That magnetic cutting mat that I had last year was something new on the market and something I liked. I liked it a lot. But there's always little things, and when you get a new gadget, you've got to be sure that you can do more than one thing with it. You know, single purpose gadgets, unless you do a lot of that single thing, may end up just taking up real estate.
Absolutely. Lurkers are always welcome on this platform, Kitty Scott. Everybody's always welcome on all of our channels, whether you be talking or lurking. Pat Strawhouse, yes, Karen. The online quilting community is so welcoming, positive, and inclusive. Thank you, ladies, for fabulous lives. Muscat, I can't say it. Muscola, Ontario.
Muskoka?
Muskoka. I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
I kept sitting here and looking at it and in my head saying it. Um, yes, Miss Pat, I'll see you this coming week. I can't wait. Thank you,
Now I
Karen.
have FOMO.
No, you got to come, Karen. It's a blast. I'm telling you. I am going to set up one for like just creators to come together and just
That would be a great one. That would be a good
yeah,
one.
that would be fun. Bring your machine if you want, but we're really going to have pamper session because the one that I host, we have a massage person that comes in with paraffin wax. We got it all going on. Pamper sessions. Thank you, ladies, for this evening. Yes, Karen, we all do things differently. My fellow Canadian, Suzanne Taylor. Shelley Clark, thank you. Interesting evening. Hello, Shelley. Tracy Louise, showing some love. Janine, good night, friends. It's been fabulous having Donna back on Friday night. God love you, Janine. See you this week, too. One of my favorite YouTube stars, Miss Karen. Janine, you're going to make us all blush. Jean Captain, Stitches, thank you, Donna and Karen, for a very interesting evening and sharing with us. Very informative and useful in all aspects of our creativity. Whew. I think I'm a bit done reading.
You're exhausted too.
Yeah. Oh my. So, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up and I'm going to hang out with Karen for a minute after we close out the live. So, don't leave me, Miss Karen.
Okay.
It's been an honor and a privilege to have you over tonight. And I do appreciate it's a blast getting together and being able to call you friend, not just creator, because it's been a blast and I can't wait. I keep telling Jeff I'm strong enough. I want to go to QuiltCon. I might have to wait until we're back in Raleigh to see you.
Isn't
But
it great? It's going to be back in Raleigh. That was such
I
a
love it. And I'm
wonderful
staying
time.
at the same hotel. I already got my plans. It's like a 7-hour ride from me, but it's fun. I love it. I drive myself like driving Miss Daisy. Well done, Donna and Karen. Everybody, say your good nights. We're going to relax a little bit and chit chat.
Good night, Rebecca. Thank you for holding down the fort.
Thank you, everybody. And you have a great night. God bless you and have a fabulous weekend. Bye-bye, guys.